ladies and gentlemen, or good morning, or even good afternoon. Whether you're listening to this driving in your truck, in your office, at home, this is First Response. This is First Response Pest, and I'm back here with my good friend here, Jeff, the owner of First Response, and we're here to talk to you today about something that's really important because the season's underway, guys. Yes, we have different, temperatures go up, temperatures go down, but it doesn't stop the pests coming. It doesn't stop them. They're there, and now we're seeing them. And actually, this is something we've been discussing. Jeff, how are you doing, my friend? Good to see you again.
Doing pretty good, man. How about you?
Yeah, not too bad. It's there's been some pests that have been early. We're seeing signs of wasps earlier than normal. We've just been talking about that. And this episode, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about bees, and not just the honeybees, but bees that you should really be careful of. And in that, we're also talking about wasps, and we're talking about hornets and things as well, because this is something serious that you need to take on board and get rid of. And of course, if you're one of our customers, and that's something we do either way. But let's talk about bees. You've been seeing, you and I, you've sent some pictures through recently. You've found some in some weird places as well. It's starting. The season's there. That you were starting to see the bees. You're getting calls now for people who are having problems with bees.
I have been, and it's amazing because sometimes it is actually bees. There's been other times where people were confused. They said, "Oh, we got these bees." Say, "Hey, do you have any pictures or videos?" And then we get them, and it could be paper wasps. It could be that they've got some yellow jackets. We don't normally see a ton of those out in the flat areas of the valleys, but we did have those recent fires, so they could be migrating. So I'm expecting we'll see some of those.
We've just been talking about that because the fires have displaced all the ground and everything else recently. They're not going to go back. There's nothing there for them. So that's probably a big warning, Jeff, isn't it? Because I think you're probably going to see a lot more yellow jackets this year.
Definitely. And then I've had people say yellow jackets, and I go, "Are they coming out of the ground?" They go, "No, they're up under my eaves. They have like an umbrella shaped paper." No, those aren't yellow jackets, but they are paper wasps, and they also sting. So hey, as part of our regular service, we can go ahead and tend to those. But or we can just do it a la carte, because some people say, "Well, I don't want a regular pest control service." So why not? We got a lot of bugs. Why not get, on something that covers the majority of them? They say, no.
Well, at the end of the day, you don't just have bees. You've got bees, you've got other insects as well, and you've got spiders, and then you've got,
that's it.
And you've got ants, and you've got ants all over California. So, we've got Argentine ants, and and they don't stop. So, why just treat for a bee? It's probably even cheaper just to keep it going and to treat for everything, and it's
that's
safer.
What I always tell them. I go, hey, get on a pest control service, because it's going to save you in the long run.
Absolutely.
Because you're getting covered. We're mitigating all of those things. Ants pop up at the least opportune moment. It's great to have someone on speed dial. But I always ask that question. Well, surely you've seen some spiders, some ants, maybe a few of the. A lot of folks call them water bugs. They're the outdoor varietals of roach. The Oriental, the American roach. They're very prevalent in the area. Oh, yeah, you know what? Now that you mention it, we have seen some of those. And these little black beetles that raise their butt up. I said, yeah, we got those out here too. The stink beetle.
You got everything.
Said, yeah, we got them all. And then they in the dialogue, we start talking, and next thing you know, okay, we're going to come out and take care. But some are insistent, and they say, hey, just the wasps. Okay, we can do some stuff for just the wasps. And so we've gone out and done a couple of those, recently. And what struck me as odd is, historically speaking,
they're early.
They're early. They're a month early. Historically speaking, we start seeing them in about mid-May. But we started seeing these guys in about, I want to say the second week of April. And, when we were just out doing service, we caught some of them before the customer even caught it.
That's a sign. That's a sign of what's to come.
It really is. It's almost like foreshadowing, right? So
yeah, absolutely.
And one of the customers popped out the door and asked the question, "Hey, what are you doing there?" And I said, "Oh, well, I was gonna go ahead and see if there was cobwebs, but wouldn't you know it, there's been a couple of wasp nests started on your house." And he goes, "I thought I saw a couple of them floating around here the other day." And I said, yeah, it's kind of awkward and peculiar for us because they're about a month early. And
And
they
they
said,
build, and you know what? They build, people don't realize they build the nest quite quickly.
very quickly. It's a lot of work for them to do it, but man, do they
It's
work.
actually fascinating to
Oh,
watch.
yeah, it really
I've
is.
seen it, I think National Geographic, David Attenborough, years and years
That
and
one
years
is
ago.
great.
Certainly,
Yeah.
when they build it and how intricate. Ugh, can't speak now. How intricate it is, and how
Yeah.
it's just phenomenal. And then
Yeah.
actually, you see them. I saw a video the other day, and some entomologist was talking about these wasps and how they operate in a community. And even
Yes.
these bees, and they could see, you know, they got the soldiers there, and then they've got the ones that are overlooking and watching the young, and then they've got, and it's amazing how they're all working together. It's absolutely fascinating. Now,
Such a team they work as,
oh, it's amazing,
Yeah.
and as fascinating as they are, though, I want to jump onto the real dangers of them, because in
Right.
California, you know, we've got invasive bees, Africanized bees,
And they are
and
becoming
they're really
increasingly a
dangerous.
problem. Oh,
Yeah.
very much so. Much more aggressive than your European honeybee, and much. You know, the thing about the Africanized bees that a lot of people don't realize is they don't really focus much of their time pollinating, collecting nectar, making honey. Yes, they can pollinate. Yes, they can collect some nectar from the flowers. Yes, they will make some honey, because at the end of the day, they are a type of honeybee. But they spend much less of their time than the European honeybee on those things. What they spend more time doing more than anything else is building up their numbers and building up their, I guess you would, for lack of a better term, call it an army
Yeah.
of bees,
Yep.
in great numbers, and they're very aggressive and they're very easily triggered. I mean,
They're
we've seen
relentless as well.
for relentless, yes. One of the guys discovered that we've been servicing for 8 years. He discovered there were Africanized bees just over his property line on his neighbor's property by firing up
Cool.
his lawnmower. They don't like loud noise. Next thing you know, he's got a swarm of these around him. As soon as he shut off the lawnmower, they all dissipate. But they didn't like that sound so close to their colony hive.
And then, you know, and here's the thing. I mean, if you equate that, all right, you don't like a lawnmower or anything else, but it can be a car, it can be your truck, it could even be
And
your children screaming and having fun.
having fun, laughing and giggling, kicking a soccer ball around. I mean, what do kids do when they're outside? They let loose of all that energy. They have fun. They make noise. And
Actually, funny, and
that's
actually, there was a case, and I don't want to frighten anybody, but I can't remember if the child died or not. But there was a case where they're kicking or throwing a ball around, and it was in California. It was a few years back, and
Mhm.
it did hit. And I think I seen it in this. I think it was one of these shows on Discovery. I
Yeah.
think it was like an envenomation show or something,
Yeah.
and they'd hit the Africanized nest.
Yes.
They didn't know was there, and then it swarmed, and then the child was just. I don't know what
Yeah.
I can't remember what the outcome was, but I know. But that's the thing that people
Yeah.
have got to really take into consideration here.
And if it's the same one I'm thinking about, it's just a few years ago.
That's
It was at
right.
a public park, and the fire department actually got involved in that one.
That's right. Throwing the
Yeah.
ball about.
Yeah, throwing the ball around, and it just set them off. And then, yeah, next thing you know, within a couple of hours, the fire department's there and they geared up. And
And
they
they've been
actually
known
used.
to they'll chase their prey. I mean, they'll chase for I think it's up to a half a mile or a mile.
That's right. So if you run, their instinct is to chase you down, because they're very predatory that way. So they lock in on you and they won't let up. If you stay still, you stay calm, like the gentleman with the lawnmower did. He just shut it off calmly and then watched them kind of just lose interest. And then he walked away, casually. Came back later, grabbed the mower, didn't start it up, just kind of casually walked it back over to the garage. And then he gave us a call and he says, "Hey, the weirdest thing happened," recanted the story. And I said, "That sounds like Africanized bees just by their behavior." Because how would you know? Do they look different? So here's the crazy thing: they don't look any different from the European honeybee.
No, they
So
don't.
outside of behavior, what we literally have to do is grab up about 10 to 20 of them, ground them up, and run them for DNA to know whether they're European or Africanized honeybees. That's really the only way you would know because there's no distinguishing mark. that differentiates them. But I mean, those of us in the know, we can usually gauge by the way that they behave. If they're out there being
Yeah.
very, predator
And you
like,
can
if
tell
they're
as well by, I think, and I may be wrong, but I think the nests are a little bit different to
yes,
normal, and where they nest as well is a little bit different. And so
yeah,
you're kind of looking for those signs and the aggressive nature of these Africanized bees. And of
and
course, people need to realize they're not native to this country.
no,
They
they're
they
not.
they
They made their way.
they're
Yeah.
invasive.
Very, very much so invasive. And the thing is, that's a very big concern right now is that they're crossbreeding with the European honeybees. So local
Hmm.
beekeepers in all different areas are trying to actually, for the most part, keep their strains of European bees pure and not risk the crossbreeding. So because I mean. For the beekeepers, pollinating whole crops and everything, it's a huge business. It's a big part of their revenue. And the European honeybees are great for that because they do what they normally do, what we're used to seeing bees do, and they
Yeah,
transfer the pollen around. They collect the
yeah.
nectar from all the blossoms. They really don't bother anybody. They're just bees. These Africanized. I mean, they may as well be wasps the way that they act. Being that they are bees, they only get one sting, but I mean, a whole swarm of them, one sting's enough if you're getting hit a bunch of times.
And the
And
other
so
thing
for us,
is
it's a
if
danger.
if they sting, they're sending that pheromone, they're sending that signal out
Right.
to the rest of them, and that's the signal that there's danger in the area, and that's when they start to swarm, and
Yeah.
then go after the prey, or go after whoever it is, whatever it is that's upset them. And but here's the other thing that we were discussing as well is, and you mentioned this about yellow jackets. Now, yellow jackets are really dangerous. They're
Oh, yeah.
very aggressive,
Yes.
and they're different to honeybees. But that's another pest that really you don't want to mess with.
No, you really don't. And, people sometimes find them by accident. A lot of times they nest in the ground. And I mean, I would say, a good 99% of the time, that's where you find them. And, entering and exiting out of a small opening in the ground. And what's going on underneath that soil is they've got a big, huge nest made out of mostly paper.
Yeah,
But it's, and it's filled with these things. So when you set those guys off, I mean,
pretty
oh,
cool.
forget about it. A lot of folks think that they're honeybees, so they say, oh, we got a bee problem. Or they maybe differentiate and call them meat bees because they were barbecuing and these things were buzzing around, getting in their face. And they have a different, very kind of erratic, zigzaggy flight pattern. And they are a type of wasp and not a type of bee, even though this about the same size as a honeybee, just
Yeah,
without
but
the
they're
fuzzy bit.
effectively a wasp.
But they are a wasp, and as such, they're capable of stinging, and stinging multiple times without
I was
any
going to say,
repercussion.
yeah, they're
Yeah,
multiple stingers.
multiple stingers, just like your paper wasp, just like a hornet could be. Whereas bees, they get one shot, and that's it. If they sting, they're pretty much done for, because it tears out a part of them.
Yeah,
But it's and it's barbed, so it stays in there, embedded in your skin, and there's tricks to getting it out of your skin without getting all that bee venom in there to really irritate the sting. But with these wasps and hornets, various different varieties, I mean, they sting. I always joke with people, but I tell them, this is the truth. Could sting you, hit me, go sting the dog, and then go off and have some Baskin Robbins without a care in the world because it doesn't hurt him at all to sting.
yeah,
And anything in the wasp family is pretty much built that way.
yeah.
They can just multiple sting, just like a scorpion, which we also see those up here sometimes too. So, it only takes a couple of sightings of that, and then somebody starts really thinking about pest control because it's not the sort of thing you see every day. And then, oh, wow, I didn't know we had scorpions. Well, we live in the high desert. Yeah, there's going to be some scorpion action. There's going to be some millipedes, centipedes. There's going to be a lot of things. But yeah, in particular, these stinging insects, they're starting to really come into the season with a splash. I mean, there's been quite a few things that have popped up where somebody, a bees, okay, well, tell me more about this. What do you have for a picture? What do
Hmm.
maybe it's bees, maybe it's wasps, maybe it's yellow jackets, but at any rate, any of these guys, they can sting you. And so when you go poking around at them, if you don't have the experience, you could get yourself in a world of hurt real
Absolutely.
fast.
And
Yeah.
they nest in so many different places. I mean, obviously we've got yellow jackets that are in the ground, but they have been known as well to nest in kind of hollowed out wood and stuff like that that's quite low.
Right.
But you also have, and I think, people, businesses, not just residential homes, business got to realize is that these bees, these wasps, these hornets, they can get into places that you don't even know, and before you know it, you've got a problem.
Yeah, and it's the age old thing. It's funny to me how everybody always, but it's not funny, but it's funny. Where they always say, "Oh, I didn't know they could, move into a wall void." I said, "Well, you had a little hole right here."
Tiny.
Yeah, tiny little hole, oh, that's where the post for the gate used to be, and the bolt went through into this structure timber, and when we moved it back, we never patched that hole, and I'm like, I wish you had, because now inside the wall void, you've got all these guys, and if we start poking at them, you're not going to want to be standing here. I'm going to go suit up, in a beekeeper suit, which it does protect you. But I mean, let's face it, if they really want to get at you, they don't care about the beekeeper suit. They'll get you through that. But
I remember a story when I was in the army, and we had a wasp nest that was in Folkestone at the time. We had a big wasp nest, and I was going through all my pest control training and entomology training at the time. And the sergeant major in charge of the environmental health unit had said, like, Jock, you go and get up on that garage, and there's a wasp nest up there, but there's not much, and you don't need to suit up or anything else. Just go up there and use some powder and just powder it, and you'll be fine. Little did I know that they were setting me up big time, right? Because you imagine I'm on top of a garage roof, right? Now the garage is I was a soldier at the time. I've jumped off of these things when I was a kid onto the ground and stuff like that. But I'll tell you something. I made sure I studied hard after this, because I went up there, created a thing. He says, just run up there, powder it. They're going to knock them out, and then you're fine. Just come back down, and we'll deal with it. Well, they were in the offices. They were hiding, and they were freaking watching me. And I was up, and I was like, all right, it's fine. I said, I'm wondering if I should have mask on and, get the old suit on and everything else. S10 respirator. So I gets the powder and everything else, gets it ready, and I've got a spray ready just in case anything's like, throw the powder in toward the nest and run back just to see if they're all dropping. Well, they didn't freaking drop, did they? They came straight out, swarmed. They're coming for me. I honestly think it was like gymnastics. I vaulted from that freaking that roof onto the dirt below, and I was running, and the sergeant major and the corporal outside hanging out the window said, come on. The bastards, actually, pardon my friend, the bastards had set me up big time. I was not happy, but I learned my lesson.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You learn real fast. Yeah. You got to be very cautious. And
suited, booted, and all the gear.
Oh man, that reminds me, because I saw the same. Where the spas, the outdoor spas that are above ground, are pretty popular because the jets are more adjustable. The pan itself is all fiberglass, so it's easier to keep it clean than a concrete in-ground one. So they're fairly popular, and they come with a nice little cover, so you can keep it covered, and then do your regular cleaning routine, use it. Great for the back. They're therapeutic. The problem is they've got this big like wooden shroud around the outside, and then the inside you've got the bottom of the tub, I guess you'd call it, the hot tub itself, that fiberglass, and then you've got the inner workings, the machinery and everything. Well, there was a little alcove.
Perfect place for nests.
Oh, perfect place for nests. And so there's a little alcove, and what had happened is he'd removed a panel because he was replacing a part of the pump. And then he discovered a whole, a bunch of bees in there, and they were not real happy that they got disturbed. So we had to make the assumption that they were Africanized. I would say most likely Africanized. And so, he was like, what are we going to do? And I said, well, we're going to have to take action. We took care of it, got him out of there. And because we could reach in there, after we got all the bees knocked down, I was able to get in there, use a little plastic scraper and just kind of get all the stuff out of there into a plastic bag in a bucket and then clear that out. But when he put the panel back on, what he did instead this time was make sure it was all sealed. So that way, and it was sealed around where the electrical conduit goes into it and everything. He went ahead and put some sealant around that. So that way another colony doesn't move in the future. But I mean, that's just one of many wall voids.
And that's pretty much behavior as well. They take over colonies.
And they do, they'll take over a spot. Even if you've removed all the honeycomb and hive material, some of the pheromones remain. And
and they still go there. Yeah.
They'll go there because they pick up on the pheromone and they go, hey, this might be a place where somebody, maybe some bees used to live. Maybe it's a suitable habitat. And they go and they investigate and they find out, hey, we could build a colony nest in here, So then they go report it to the others. Next thing you know, a swarm of bees moves in when you're not looking. And you go to use the jacuzzi or hot tub, and in this guy's case, and you got bees swarming you. It's like, okay, well,
that is not a relaxing evening in your hot tub.
Not at all. Yeah, you're sitting in the hot tub and there's bees floating around. You're like, okay, I gotta go.
Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about honeybees, because this is really, really important as well. We hate to obviously get rid of honeybees, and we want to talk about, because honeybees are so important. They're important to our environment, and actually without honeybees, Earth would not exist, right? It's
really, they're the one thing
they're so important.
Going, I mean, they really do a big job, cross transferring all the pollinate,
everything.
The vegetation just wouldn't do what it does if they weren't out there doing their part, and so they really are a very important part of our ecosystem. So like you said, we don't really look to take action on bees. Some people say, oh, I don't want to see a bee at all, just kill them all. And I go, well, no, it's an ecological balance thing. You really do want them around. They're important. I said, but what we want around, we want the non-invasive. We want the regular honeybees that we've always had. We don't want these Africanized around. Unfortunately, they're here. And so in those cases, we do have to take action. But there are things that, certain customers do. They plant bee-friendly flowers and stuff, and they know they're going to have bees around, and they plan accordingly. But then you do other things too. If you're gonna support the pollinators, make sure your structure is really well sealed up, right? So, as we're walking around, I've even pointed out a couple of things to a couple of clients, and I go, "Oh, I noticed you planted these flowers." They say, "Oh, yeah, for the bees, for the hummingbirds." For the, I said, "Oh, that's great. You're supporting the bees, you're supporting the hummingbirds, and they're great to have around." I said, now I did notice over on the side here, there's just a slight little opening. What I'd recommend is you put some kind of caulking or sealant over that, because it's just a big enough opening that bees can get in and out there, and you're already attracting them to the property. They're coming for the flowers. We don't want them to make a home in your structure, because now they're in your wall. It's a problem.
Yes and no, and here's what I'm going to suggest. We don't want to make a home in structure, but I'm going to suggest to people that becoming a beekeeper, we need more beekeepers. So if you're planting flowers and you want to, it's a good thing to invest in maybe an apiary and learning about bees, because it's not only is it fascinating, it's a great, but look at what you're doing for the planet. Absolutely. And to bring, and you're given, and we need, here's the thing as well, because we were talking about this, Jeff, we need more beekeepers, because we don't want to destroy bees. We want to relocate honeybees. So if they're in a tree, if they're in the garden and they're not doing any harm, and you leave them. If they're in a home or they're in a structure and they're causing a problem, we want to try and locate them, but relocate them. But the problem is there's not enough beekeepers. We need more beekeepers.
Really, and so it's funny.
Take up a hobby, guys.
Two clients that are. And there's a common misconception out there. You can't have pest control and be a beekeeper. Not true. One of our clients has 5 hives, and another client has 2 hives. And we go there on a regular routine, visit every other month at both of their properties, and we know exactly where the beehives are located. We see them doing all their bee stuff and everything, and because of that, we take the according precautions about.
And you're treating for crawling pests more than anything else, and not flying you're not guaranteeing flying
Right.
pests because that's the difference.
Right. And, there's certain products, not to spray it on areas where the pollinators are going to visit. But then there's areas those pollinators never visit. So you can use those products in those
Yeah,
areas.
yeah, yeah,
And then you
absolutely.
have other products that are just general all around. But like you said, we want to keep back those earwigs, those roaches, those beetles, those crickets. We want to keep back the spiders. We want to deter the ants as much as we can.
Mm.
I mean, those boogers, they'll get in it anyway if they're determined enough. But then we've got tricks for that. We can bait them. We can do things,
Yeah.
all of which won't harm the bees, which is great. And so that was a
And that's
question.
why we need more. And actually, what I'm going to do, I think, when you have this article, ladies and gentlemen, and you're listening to the podcast, I think what we'll do is we'll list a resource if you're really interested in
Yes.
becoming a beekeeper. We're going to put that down there because we do need more beekeepers. We want to be able to phone you up and say, hey, can we relocate a nest that we found in another property, and can you come and do that? Because you just think of the service that you're getting.
Right.
And also you're helping us. You're working and it's all about. And we've said this so many times, Jeff. It's all about working together as a team.
It
We want
really
to
is. It
protect
takes
the
a team.
honeybees, but we
Yeah.
want to get rid of and exterminate the Africanized bees
That's right.
and the wasps and hornets. And actually, we did an episode as well on the yellow invasive hornet,
Yes. Yeah. And
and
we
people
haven't come
mistake
across
that
any yet.
for yeah,
In our area, but we're on the lookout
yeah.
constantly because we know that there's a potential for them being here, and with those
Anyway.
guys and the way that they treat the bees, we
Mm.
really want to get rid of them. So because they just go in and do a lot of damage to a bee colony. So
Yeah.
that type of hornet, yeah, they're
And we got bald face hornets, which are very
yeah,
ominous and big buggers, and that's coming into the season for them as well. So I mean, this is not
right.
just about bees, guys. You got bees, you got honeybees, you got Africanized bees, but then you've got to take into consideration the wasps, the yellow jackets,
Yeah, the
the
wasps, yellow
hornets,
jackets, those
paper
hornets.
wasps,
Oh, paper
and I
wasps,
think you have.
yeah.
I think there's, and I may be wrong, but I think there's a species of paper wasp. It's like a suicide wasp. It's a, I can't remember the name of it actually. I need to think. But that's also
Oh,
prevalent in
okay.
the area.
Well, we get the golden Palistes, but we also get the darker, the orange color.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but the golden Palistes are what we normally see a lot, and those guys can be kind of mean and kind of aggressive too. As far as paper wasps go.
And they're doing
Then
what they do. I mean, end of the day, it's
yeah,
their nature. They're just doing what they do, and you
oh, very
can't blame them for
territorial.
that. You've just got to
Yeah,
protect your children, your pets, and that's another thing. Pets are very. If you're a pet lover, then you got to
yeah,
think about protecting your pets from bees because
that's right.
it can be a bit dodgy.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And the number one concern, because we get so many of them up here in the high desert, is the black widow spider. And yes, a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people take their pet into the vet. He's been bit by something, don't know what. Very often they're like, "Oh, could have been a black widow spider." We got a lot of those around here, and that can make the pet ill. Of course, they might be having an adverse reaction to one of these stinging insect stings, and I've seen it
Anaphylactic
before.
shock. Anybody, your pet can get it, your kid can get it, and this is the other thing
Yeah.
about bees as well. You can, anaphylaxis can kill you.
And if you've never been stung, you don't know if you're allergic or
You know.
not. And so I've been stung a few times, and even I have to take precautions because and I learned that I could be not allergic, take a lot of hits, and then one day
Yeah.
just come up allergic.
Well,
And
that's
so
it. You can, and you're absolutely right. You may not be allergic now, but you could develop allergy
absolutely.
at any
And
any
so
given time in your life.
we get people that they'll ask a question or two, and I'm pretty confident I can tackle it, and I go, oh, unless you buy a beekeeper suit, and even
Mm-hmm.
that, it's not 100%, but and that's one of the precautions we take. But I mean, and the industry, we know when it's really going to get overwhelming, and we know that we can calmly step back, reassess the situation, take a few additional minutes, decompress, and decide, okay, is this game plan working, or do we need to back off for a minute and we need to reassess and maybe come up with a plan B on attacking this, so that we're doing it as safely as possible. 'Cause at the end of the day, we want to get home in one piece as well.
I also want to bring up this as well, because I've seen this happen a few times where a customer will have a nest and they they don't realize. So, have a nest, you come inspect it, find the nest, deal with it, job done, they're happy. But what they don't realize is that another nest is developing or can be developed very quickly after that, and then they come back and say, "Well, got another nest," and then they have to pay again because they only called you out for that one nest. Whereas if they had a regular pest control contract that was running, then if you got 2 or 3 nests, we'll deal with it. It's part of it. It's part of that contract. Because why pay for to get a nest removed and you're happy, and then all of a sudden next week there's another nest develops? Because if there's one nest, there's going to be more.
Oh, there's definitely going to be more.
It's going to be cheaper in the long run just to say, you know what, let's pay a few dollars a month just to have that peace of mind. Is gold.
Oh, it's gold. Yeah, and it's funny because that you mentioned that one of our clients that we've been working with for well over 2 years now, that was what happened. And it was the summer of well over 2 years. It was almost going on 3. We're in our 3rd year. Summer of 22. They called, in late May. It was real hot, and we took care of some wasps for them. Well, they called mid-June, said we've got them back again. So, okay, well, I'll pay you again. That's if you can come out and do it again. We got out there, we did it again, knocked down the nest, took care of that, spot treated a couple of areas. And she said, what's the likelihood they're going to come back? And I said, well, I mean, there's a lot of eaves on the house here.
They're going to come back.
Yeah. And we're not that deep into summer yet. So, I mean, they could come back. And so she said, well, what if we just started doing regular pest control instead? And so, she caught us right when we got there, because she was going to pay for a second wasp job, and she thought, I'm going to be doing this every month. And she said, no, let's just get on regular service. And I said, you know what, I can make that happen. I, got on the horn at the office and said, hey, let's get this going, and then we'll take care of the wasps, but we'll make it the initial pest control service as well, and just get the whole shebang done. Went for her first regular visit after. She says, you know what? Already I've noticed there's not a lot of wasp activity, but I've noticed a real downturn in all the other insects as well. And she's like, and I've been using the store-bought stuff and just spraying it around once every, stuff says it lasts 90 days. And I said, well, gosh, even our commercial grade stuff isn't going to hold up 90 days. I said, it's, 60 days, sure. But I said that the store-bought stuff, she showed it to me, and looked at the label. I was always curious about the label, right?
I mean, one good rainfall just whips it away. There's nothing there. It's not the commercial stuff that we use. It doesn't last. Right. And even though they claim it doesn't. And that's why a lot of people, keep having the same problems all the time.
That's
right. And that's why it's beneficial. I mean, you're living in an area where there's tons of pests, there's tons of bees. There's bees that they're building nests, hornets, all sorts. So why take the chance? Why have to just constantly pay for a bee removal when you can just have the one contract that deals with it all? And it doesn't matter if you've got 3 nests or 10 nests; they're going to get removed.
Right. Well, we'll get it taken care of. And that's the thing. So that particular a customer of ours, she, for peace of mind, of course, has gone up exponentially. And there have been a couple little flare-ups, of course, last summer, as if by clockwork, but right in the peak of summer, there was an ant flare-up there, and of course, she called, and I said, isn't it great that you can just call it now? We'll walk you through what to do, what not to do, and then we got an appointment already on the schedule, and so we'll meet you there. We'll do what we do. We'll get you over this hurdle. Little bit of bait placement in a couple of areas, and bam, now she's out in the out of the woods on that one. And then we saw her the next regular. How's things? I mean, you guys are the best. Well, we try. It's we know a few things about these guys, and we try to do our best.
Before we finish off, Jeff, let's talk about, because what I want to get into people's minds as well is, there's things that we can guarantee. We can guarantee to get rid of rodents. We can guarantee to get rid of ants, and we can keep on top of that. But it's important that people know that it's impossible. We can't guarantee flying insects. We can keep, treating and getting rid of them, but we cannot guarantee it. And you must recognize that, ladies and gentlemen, because the very fact they're flying, they can come from a distance and start to build a nest. So don't be looking for guarantees with flying insects. The same with mosquitoes and any other flying insects that you can't guarantee them. Yes, we can guarantee crawling insects, and but we can't guarantee that. And even with spiders, spiders is difficult as well. You can't guarantee that because their exoskeleton is protected. So it's a constant have to develop protocols to get rid of webs, to get rid of everything else. It's constant.
And ballooning in, like they do. It's almost as if they're flying. And I had a fun time explaining that to a guy the other day. He goes, well, hey, I guess life could be worse. And he was having a rough day. And I said, what do you mean? And he goes, well, spiders could have wings. And I go, well, they do sort of float on the breeze by parasailing with their silk. And he goes, oh, geez, so you're going to tell me now that spiders fly? And I'm like, well, they glide. And he goes,
they kind of do.
Geez, just when I thought I knew. And he goes, that's how they get here? And I go, that's a lot of times how they get here from off-site, And he goes, oh, geez. And he goes, but they don't have wings, at least. I said, none that I've ever seen, so we're good there. I said, but they do glide pretty good, with the silk they spin out. They can catch the breeze real nice, and we get a breeze a lot, And he goes, flying spiders. He goes, dang it, that's just one more thing for me to have nightmares about. And I go, don't worry, it's okay.
That's why you go first response. You don't need to have nightmares because you go first response. Exactly. Jeff, it's been awesome chatting again, and it's been great. And I hope everybody can get something from this about bees, how important it is. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, we want to protect our ecology. We want to protect our honeybees. So if you're interested and you want to become a beekeeper, we're going to get information on that for you. But also, remember, there's danger in these African honeybees. They're really dangerous. So it's better to get on the books now to get everything, so that if you ever have, no matter how many wasp nests that start to build up, we're going to deal with it. This is the season. It's starting early. So if they're starting early, you should already have been started. So make sure you connect with us at First Response Pest Control, firstresponsepc.com, First Response Pest Control. Ash will get you sorted out and get you booked in. It's best to do that, and we will be back very soon with another episode where we'll be diving into another pest.
Yes.
Who knows what it'll be? Maybe even one day we'll do one on snakes and something else. We don't know. We'll see how we go. But Jeff, final words, my friend, about bees in the area.
Yeah. So not all bees are bad, but then not all bees are helpful either. So, if you don't know and you're not sure, it's best to err on the side of caution. That's what I always tell everybody. Even when they call, they go, I can get a picture from a distance. And I go, yeah, keep your distance because, don't make a lot of loud noise, because if they are Africanized, you don't want to get them too interested, and you don't need that attention. I said, if they're just the regular run-of-the-mill honeybee, chances are they won't really be a threat to you unless they feel threatened. But the Africanized are very aggressive. So I said, zoom in from a distance and send me the picture. I can always take a look, or grab a video. Let's see what we're looking at and everything. And get some people that are die hard. I can DIY this. And I go, man, take some precautions, but suit up. If you can, order up, off of one of the online stores, a beekeeper suit. Now, a good one may run you a couple $100, but it's worth it if it saves you a trip to the hospital. So,
or just be simple, ladies and gentlemen. Just start regular pest control and let us look after the bee problem. Let us look after the wasp problem, the hornet problem, the ant problem, the spider problem, the rodent problem, the cockroach problem. And then if you really need any specialist mosquito treatment, then check out one of our other episodes, because we've been talking about that recently as well. Jeff,
absolutely.
It's always...
Our service is really taking off. A lot of people using it now because humidity levels are up. So, the mosquitoes been biting people already. Again, kind of on the early side, but, we got out in front of it.
Everything's early.
Yeah, everything's early now.
So start early, guys. Start now. Book us, firstresponsepc.com. Give us a call. We'll book you in, and we will get you taken care of. And remember, if you're listening to the podcast or you see us anywhere on social, then connect with us. You'll get a discount off your first month or off your first inspection. Absolutely. That's our gift to you. And if you've got any questions, then reach out to us at any time. Send us an email, send us a message. We will give you all the education that you need, and we'll help you as well to answer any question or any worry. And the last thing that I'll say is, do not fear the bees. Call us and we'll get them from anywhere, even the trees.
Absolutely.
I'm a poet and don't know it.
Yeah, there you go. Perfect. It rhymes.
God bless, ladies and gentlemen. We'll speak to you soon.
All right.